when God brings you blessing, doesn't mean that it comes automatically, no matter what. I know the Bible says that the blessings of the Lord will overtake you, but you have to be in the path of the overtaking in order for God's blessings to overtake you. Because if God's blessing is overtaking another, the path that you're not in, and the blessing's still there, just that you've moved out of the way of the blessing. And I want to try to show you what that means today by reading you the story of the prodigal son. I don't want to read the whole story, but it's several verses long. But I just want to kind of go through it and talk about it a little bit. You find the story in Luke 15, and probably start somewhere around verse 11. Yeah, verse 11. And down through the rest of the chapter, actually. Down through verse 32. It's 11 through 32. It's about 20 verses long or so. And the story goes that a man had two sons, and the younger of the two sons took his inheritance from his father and left, and went into a different country, and he spent all of his money on harlots and partying and stuff like that. And a lot of you saying, "Yahoo, boy, it's my kind of man." Well, you better wait a minute, because now see, he's wasted his blessings. He's off track. He's off the path. And you know, a lot of people think that, you know, the prodigal son was the one that was actually blessed, and he wasn't. It was the older son who was blessed here, because the older son stayed on the path. Okay, and he was upheld by God. He had everything intact. He never lost anything. He was, you know, a lot of the story is not about him, but yet this older son was the most blessed, far above blessed than the younger son here, because he stayed in his father's will. Okay, and anyway, after the son had wasted all that he had, the younger son wasted in this strange land. The Bible said there was a famine came upon the land, and the younger son began to be in want, and so he joined himself to a person of that land, and the man wouldn't even feed him food. He says, you feed my hogs, and because you're feeding my hogs, you can eat whatever food that out of this that you want to eat. You can eat with my hogs. So, and that's what he did. And it doesn't say how long he fed hogs, but it says he finally came to himself, you know. And sometimes that's kind of hard to do. That's what I like to call the broken leg era of a Christian life, you know. How that God sees us getting far away from it, and he begins to break our legs. And sometimes, man, it takes quite a while for a broken leg to heal. And but let me tell you something now. When this leg heals, you got no problem staying close to the Lord after this, you know, because you see what this kind of thing bring you. This younger son, I bet you the whole rest of his life never had a problem with leaving his dad in his land again. So the younger son, when he came to himself, he says, "How many servants does my father have in his house? And he says, I'll go to my father, and he says, I will say to him, I'll be like one of your hired servants. He says, I'm no longer worthy to be your son. He says, but I'll be like one of your hired servants. And he got himself up and he went back. Now, Christians, we can still have the blessings that God has promised us when we get off track. But most of the time, it's not like the blessings that we would have if we just stayed in place where God has put us. Stay faithful in the Lord. Stay on track. The greater blessing is in staying faithful in God. We're going to see that here in just a minute. So he came back, and it was a great story how his father received him back into the house. But the younger son had no more inheritance. He spent it all. Okay? So he had to serve his older brother all the days of his life because he had wasted everything that God had given him through his dad, the inheritance. Okay? So, and they threw a party and because the younger son returned, and the older brother got upset about it. And he said, look, I've been with you all this time. And he says, you've never given me a calf to make merry with my friends. And he says, I've never left you. And the father made some astounding statements here in the last part of this chapter 15 of the book of Luke. And he says, son, he says, all that I have belongs to you. He says, this is yours from now and forever, to do with as you wish. And he says, but this your son, your brother, who was dead, is alive again. He was lost, and now he is found. And it's a good thing to be found, brother. It's a good thing to be found, but it's a better thing never to be lost. and stay in the real blessings of God. That's a good lesson to learn today, and I'm glad I was able to bring it to you. The most exciting thing, God just never runs out of lessons in the book, this book called the Bible. And man, I sure enjoy my time I spend with you. We're going to get this on YouTube. We thank you. I appreciate YouTube. I pray for them. Some things I may not like about YouTube. It's kind of hard to use for an older fellow like me sometimes, but we get the job done, and it's a true blessing. And join me again next time, and we'll have another great message on Crossing the Middle Ministry. God bless.